Welcome IB Economics students to this video lecture on the law of supply. In this video, we will be going into why there is a direct relationship between the price of a good and the quantity supplied by any firm. We'll be going into the definition of the law of supply, what supply is. We'll also be using an illustration through graphic form of what the law of supply looks like on a graph. This is really important because in paper 1, a common question is for you to graph the law of supply and the law of demand. So it's important that we also learn how to graph the law of supply. So this is important. Let us first define what the law of supply is. So in order to define what the law of supply is, we have to first define what supply is. So supply could be defined as the willingness and ability for firms to produce a quantity of goods or services at a given time period. So this is the definition of supply. Now it is important to take note that the phrase supply and the phrase quantity supply is greatly different. So supply is the willingness and ability for firms to produce at a quantity of goods or services at a given time period. It is useless if a firm is willing, however unable, to produce a certain quantity of good. It is also equally as useless if a firm is able but unwilling to produce a certain amount of goods and services at a given time period. So this is the economic definition of supply. The law of supply, the law of supply states that there is a direct correlation between the price of a good and the firm's willingness and ability to supply the product / service. So and it's also important for us economists to say ceteris paribus, when all things are equal. So when all things are equal, there is a direct correlation between the price of a good and the firm's willingness and ability to supply the product or service. Now, a prime example of that, let's give an example of, let's say, frozen pizzas. So here is an example of frozen pizza. Let's say the price of a frozen pizza starts at $5. Okay, so $5 for a frozen pizza. Quite cheap for a frozen pizza, actually. Let's say the firm's ability and willingness to provide or supply pizza at a price of $5 per pack is 1,000. So a firm is willing to produce 1,000 quantities or 1,000 packs of frozen pizza at the price of $5. However, if the price rises to, let's say, in increments of $5 to $10, then firms are more incentivized and willing to produce more in order to capitalize on higher rates of marginal returns. So at the rate of $10, firms are willing to produce 2,000 units of frozen pizza in this example. So let's say at a price of 15, 20, and 25, each increasing in increments of 5, the firms are willing to produce more at 3,000, 4,000, and let's say 5,000. So this makes perfect sense, because as the prices for a good rises, the firms want to make more money. Therefore, they will want to allocate more resources to the sector to produce more. So let's say this firm, let's say firm A produces both frozen pizzas and frozen burritos. Okay, let's say this firm produces both frozen pizzas and frozen burritos. However, as the price of frozen pizza rises, let's say from $10 to $15, and the price of four frozen burritos remains the same, then firms are incentivized to produce more frozen pizzas in order to capitalize on higher prices to maximize their potential income and potential revenue. So firms want to maximize their potential revenue and increasing production for goods with higher prices increases potential revenue. So that is one of the primary reasons why firms are willing and able to produce more as the price of a good rises. As the price of a good rises, let's say from 10 to 15, the firms are able to receive more income, therefore they're able to produce. So they're able to produce a greater and a larger quantity of this good. However, let's say as the price of a good, of the frozen pizzas in this instance, falls from 15 to all the way down to 10, then the willingness and ability for firms to produce goods is decreased as a direct result. Now we would like to illustrate in graphic form the law of supply. The law of supply curve. So let's say, let's title this graph the supply curve of frozen pizzas. So as we remembered, having our graph labeled fully is really important. On the x-axis, we are going to say this is the quantity produced. On the x-axis, we label this as quantity produced. On the y-axis, this is the price at which these products are sold at. So for the price, it increases in increments of 5. So right here is 5. Right here we have 10. So increasing increments of 5. So when you are told to draw your draw graphs and illustrations of certain theories or concepts in your paper 1 exam, having your graph labeled on all axes, on the x and y axis, as well as the title and every single curve, is extremely imperatively crucial. So the prices here increases in increments of 5, while the quantity demanded, quantity produced, let's say it's in thousand units. So from right here, from the 1,000 units, we could just say 1,000 units, 2,000 units, 3,000 units, 4,000 units. It is important. Many students, when it comes to drawing graphs or interpretation of graphs, they will forget that some of these increments are not in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, but instead in thousands or millions, or in some national GDP figures in billions. So let's put the information of this graph, of this table, into the graph. So at the price of $5, the firms are only willing and able to produce at the level quantity produced of 1,000. So this is right here. At the price of $10, firms are willing to produce at the quantity of and level of output of 2,000. At the price of 15 per pack, firms are willing and able to produce 3,000, and 4,000 for when it's at 20, and 5,000 when it's at 25. So as you can see, as the price of a good increases, the willingness and ability for firms to produce increases at a marginal rate. So this red line right here is the best fit line, showing the supply curve of frozen pizzas. That of which shows how as the price of a good increases, as the price of a good increases, the demand, the quantities produced for the good also increases. While when the price of a good decreases, the quantity produced also decrease. Now, this is directly due to the willingness and ability for firms to produce at the levels when the price level increases or decreases. As the price level increases, firms are more willing and more able to produce more, while as the price decreases, firms are less willing and less able to produce more. Now, this concludes our video lecture of the law of supply. Our next video will be on the shifts of demand and the shifts of supply. Now, tune in for that video, and I'll see you IB economics students in the next video.